Hey, welcome back to another Would You Rather Wednesday here at Sprague Homestead. I'm Kanan.
I'm Nikki.
And this week's question is going to be, would you rather...
Oh, I get to do it. Would you rather use an electric meat grinder or a manual meat grinder?
All right, so this was a question from one of our members here on our channel. So we're going to take a couple minutes off camera to go ahead and put together our cases on would you rather do a manual or electric meat grinder? All right, we're back, and we each have our debate on this side of the issue at hand. Nikki's going to go ahead and go first. So go ahead. Tell me which you would rather do, a manual or an electric meat grinder?
I'm going to say that both have their merits. You've probably never used a manual.
No, and I tell you what, when this question came up, the immediate thought for me was that issue or that episode of Seinfeld where Kramer's doing sausage in Jerry's apartment. You know, and he's got the music going, and he's doing, and that's what came to mind.
Was that, like 1987?
Yeah, it probably was, but I'm telling you, that's exactly what came to mind when somebody said, you should use a manual meat grinder. I thought, oh boy, here we go.
I like the manual in the idea that, like with my family, when we used to use one when I was a kid, it was usually during like deer and elk processing. So you could take it out to the barn or wherever the guys had, or shop, whatever, wherever the guys had the meat hanging, and you could grind burger right there. All the weird little tidbits that come off that aren't, loin and all the rest. I remember us kids not being able to touch it until we were like 12 or 14, because if you got your finger in one of those moving parts, it would take it off. For indoor use, I don't like them at all, because you have to, so they're all set up basically with a clamp, because they're big, they're heavy, and you have to clamp them to something. And a lot of modern tables aren't really set up that way. We have a farm table, and it kind of works, because I use a clamp-on food mill when I do jams and jellies and salsas, or not salsas, but tomato sauce and stuff. But most tables don't really have that good lip that you need, and it will dent a table. When you tighten them on, they will dent a table. Mm-hmm. So they're nice, if the power goes out, I guess you can do it. But I got to tell you, I've got two electrics, and I love them. I love that mine will very easily do different sizes. They've got the little blade in there that can be sharpened, where a lot of the old-timey ones have like different setup. They're not really burrs, but they have different knives in there. They're much harder to sharpen. They're much harder to clean. You can't run them through a dishwasher or any of that kind of stuff. Not that we have one, but usually the whole thing has to be like taken off and the whole thing washed out. Where with my electrics, I can't remember what it's called, just the L piece pulls off of the unit. So I think they're easier to use, easier to clean up, easier to sharpen. Obviously, they make more noise.
They do.
And they, you have to go somewhere with a power source.
Right.
What do you think?
Again, I don't think that I've ever used a manual one for anything in my life. The closest thing I could tell you I probably used is either an Apple decor, what do you want to call it?
Peeler core. I have one of those too.
That or a pencil sharpener that clamps onto the side of a table. That's it. That's probably as close as I've got. So I'll just say, if you have power available where you're going to process, and of course for us, we do it all inside the house, and it's all in the kitchen or the dining room since we have such a small house, there's no reason other than money that you would go for a manual over an electric if you have power available.
I'm going to point something out to him that he probably doesn't know. If you've ever looked at the price of a manual,
no,
they are as expensive as a low grade, like our 575 watt LEM. They are electric. They are about the same price because they're heavy and they're just all cast, and there's not a lot of price difference. They're very close to
so if that late breaking story and evidence into there is no reason, if you have power, that you should be running a manual. I can't think of a situation that you would say, I would love to sit and crank on this little handle over and over and over and over to do this.
Yeah.
If you have power available and you can afford whatever size grinder you have or you need?
So it's an interesting, this question comes up a lot in some of my homestead prepper type groups. And I always think it's kind of an interesting question because if a lot of people go with the manual because of the idea that if my power goes out, I can still grind meat. And that's true, except I'm going to ask the question of what are you going to do with it? Most people don't. We can quite a bit of ground meat into different stuff, but there's not a lot of people I know of that can a whole lot of ground. So most people freeze ground. And if you don't have power to run
a freezer,
well, if you don't have power to run the grinder,
right,
I'm going to assume you don't have power to run a freezer to freeze it anyway.
Right. So
I'm not really sure I understand. Like I said, this comes up a lot, and I've never really understood the line of thinking there.
Mm-hmm.
Because if you've got, like, the pioneers didn't worry a whole lot about ground meat, not a whole lot.
Right.
That was an immediate use. I mean, if you're going to make sausage and smoked sausages and stuff, I guess you could use it, but you could just as easily hand chop, and there's other things that can be done. But so. Your final answer, you're going with the electric?
If you have power, absolutely go with an appropriate size or slightly larger than you think you need electric.
And I'm going to go with electric because, like I said, I've got 2 of them. I've used the manual as a kid. One, you get blisters. Mm-hmm. Even the best well-oiled ones, it seems like, they bog down a little bit and you do get blisters. And I'm going to push the button and feed the meat in and be done. I can grind 2 grinds worth of, 10 pounds doing a coarse blade and a small blade in probably a third of the time of what it takes in a manual. So I'm all about time.
All right. So 2 electric, 0 for manual, assuming you have power. So that's it for this time. Now, if you guys have comments to this or you have additional questions, throw them down in the comment section down below the video. Now, we do have the 2 electrics, and I will throw out some links down there also so you can kind of see what we use. And we do a lot of meat processing. We really have in the last 2 months. We have processed hundreds of pounds of meat easily.
Yeah.
And the grinder has gotten a lot of use.
The grinder and the canner.
Yeah, they've gotten a huge amount of use. So if you have questions on what we use, I'll go ahead and throw down links down in the description so you can kind of see what we use. Not saying that's what you got to have, but at least it's feasible. It's something that can be done, and that's what we would recommend.
And maybe you completely disagree with us or have something that we didn't think about there. Yeah. Feel free to leave that down the bottom. We want to hear your thoughts on it. But
that's it. That's it from Sprague Homestead. Thanks for stopping by. And next week we're going to do something really kind of fun. So you're going to check out what that is.
Oh boy! Happy homesteading.